Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Giants lose on Thanksgiving to the Dallas Cowboys by a score of 27-20. So it's 7 straight losses for the Giants. They are 2-10 on the season and 0-5 in division, losing both games to the Dallas Cowboys. And it was a quarterback matchup between Drew Lock and Cooper Rush. So Drew Lock ends up being the starting quarterback in this game as a result of Tommy DeVito. I think it was deemed a sore forearm for Tommy DeVito. And in large part to kind of him getting kind of beat up at the end of that last Bucs game. So somewhat avoidable. With Drew Lock, I think ultimately, we're not talking about much here. I think he is better than Tommy DeVito. There's a difference, though. DeVito actually plays a little bit of a safer brand of football. It doesn't turn the ball over as much, where Lock is a little bit, I guess you could say a little bit more of a risk taker. And so that can definitely lead to some pretty big turnovers. And that's exactly what happened here, where the big play of the game was a pick six by DeMarvion Overshown. And there was a big fumble by Drew Lock that was recovered by Dallas at the start of the second half. The Giants do break their streak of not having a lead. They did take a 7-3 lead. It actually had a 7-3 lead at the end of one quarter, a lead that they held, into the second quarter. But ultimately, I guess you can continue the streak of the Giants not having a lead in the second half, because once the Cowboys got that touchdown, that pick six, they never saw the lead again. So also some injuries coming out of this game, all to the same position. And the big one is Dexter Lawrence, who dislocates his elbow. I believe it was a friendly fire situation between him and Bobby Okereke that occurred, I believe, in the third quarter, I think is when the injury happened. And Lawrence left the game, did not return, and we will see what his status is moving forward. Not too sure, to be honest. It really could range, honestly. Like, is there a world where he's available next week? Maybe. But is there a world where he could be done for the season? That's possible, too. Raheem Nunez-Roches also left the game earlier on, I believe, a neck injury or a stinger. And then DJ Davidson, actually, he might have been the one that got hurt initially, even maybe before Nunez-Roches, a shoulder injury for Davidson. So that really left them with only Elijah Chapman and Jordan Riley. So a team that is not good at stopping the run to begin with, in a tougher spot. Enrico Dowdle had 22 carries, 112 yards, and a touchdown, and was just ripping off runs where there were a lot of missed tackles by the Giants. That's a consistent theme with this team. They are not good at tackling. I think there was a stat that they had missed 10 tackles about midway through the second quarter. So Cooper Rush and Drew Lock both were not very good. The difference is Rush didn't make the big mistakes that Lock did. Lock ends up 21 for 32, 178 yards, no touchdowns and interception. He did do pretty well on the ground, actually. Had a couple of really big runs. One that was a touchdown, another that essentially they ruled him out at the one, and then Tyrone Tracy got the touchdown. Then Cooper Rush, 21 for 36, 195 yards with a touchdown and no interceptions. So that's kind of the difference right there, because really the yardage in this game is probably going to be advantage Cowboys, but maybe not by a whole lot. Yeah, I mean, 317 to 247 in favor of Dallas. Time of possession, a little bit of an edge to Dallas. Look, Dallas was the better team. And here's the thing, too. 6 sacks for the Cowboys, none for the Giants. And, that's problematic against a Cowboy offensive line that's really banged up. I mean, Zach Martin was out. It seemed as if they had players that got hurt in-game as well. So this is not your prototypical stout Dallas offensive line. And so it's just disappointing that the likes of Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau really couldn't do a whole hell of a lot. I can think of a couple of plays offhand, but not great. As far as injuries coming into the game, Azeez Ojulari, his toe injury has put him on IR. So basically with that, Ojulari, there's a chance his season's over. He would be eligible to play the final 2 games of the season. At that point, though, we'll see. So Ojulari, who has been victim to injury in his career, he's back on the shelf. And then Jermaine Illuminor, who left the last game, he was out too. I think he might be back next week, especially with the long layoff, but that meant Chris Hubbard at left tackle, Evan Neal at right tackle, which is a major problem. And Drew Lock was on his ass pretty much all game. Even if it wasn't a sack, just the hits he was taking, it's tough for anyone to be able to withstand this. And that's the sad thing. As much as I'm, pulling for losses, right? And so now Giants, further their position for one of the top picks. But it was nice to see the offensive line really be stable and somewhat effective when Andrew Thomas was healthy. Now all of a sudden you lose Thomas and Illuminor, and it goes from serviceable to bad. No other way to put it. So Deonte Banks, he was out as well with, I think it was a rib injury. So with Banks, that's one of those things where, he is, as poor as he's been, I also think that he, is a lot better than Adoree Jackson. And so that's kind of the problem with that, is that Adoree, he was in there a lot. And so he was getting beat as well. And no chances of interceptions at all. So 11 straight games without one, which is an NFL record. Only one interception. That was week 1. So there's no parts of this team that's good. Like, the defense was okay, but far from good. The offense is a major, major problem as currently constituted. We know that. And, those turnovers, literally one was a direct 7 points for Dallas, and the other one essentially was as well, not directly, but they gave him a short field. And that was, again, the difference in this game. So, and just looking at some of the stats, for the Giants, it was a mix between Tracy and Singletary. Now, Singletary was a big reason for that, for the Overshown pick 6. He was the one that actually the screen was supposed to go to. He kind of got blown up by Overshown. Still a bad play by Locke. The point is that the Tracy fumbles have led to a situation where Singletary is getting more run. Tyrone Tracy is definitely he has he is more of the leader of the pack, but where at one point it almost felt like it was like an 80-20 split, and it might have even been more than that in some ways. Now it feels as if it's more like 60-40, 65-35 percentage-wise in favor of Tracy. Malik Neighbors, he was fed the ball a lot, 13 targets, 8 catches for 69 yards. And though his biggest play was taken off the board by a holding penalty, which I should mention as well, Giants took 13 penalties, I believe. 13 penalties to 6 on Dallas. That is where blame can go to Dable for things like that. Because look, this was, and obviously I'm coming from a place where I don't mind that they lost. So you do have to kind of take that into consideration. However, to be fair, the Giants didn't get embarrassed in this game, and nor should they have. This is not a good Dallas team. But what is a problem is, again, all those penalties. That's not great. So again, Neighbors didn't really do a lot in terms of big plays, but he had the ball thrown in his direction quite a bit. Theo Johnson, we saw him make a bit of an impact in the second half, 5 catches, 54 yards overall. And, in terms of Darius Slayton, the others, the Slaytons and the Wan'Dale Robinsons, they have really taken a big hit in the post-Daniel Jones world. You're still going to see a lot of Malik Neighbors. It seems like Theo Johnson is getting some work, which is good for the rookie. But yeah, in terms of Wan'Dale and Slayton, it's going to be, I feel like, tough sledding for them. CeeDee Lamb on the Dallas side made one pretty big play, and it was really a missed tackle by Adoree Jackson that led to it. He had some bad drops. Neighbors had drops as well, but Lamb had some drops, and he, I think he might have re-injured his shoulder. So he did not play much in the second half at all. But Dallas had a pretty comfortable lead at that point, so it was okay. Again, no sacks for the Giants, no interceptions for the Giants. Among the 6 sacks for the Cowboys, you get 1.5 by Micah Parsons. Eric Kendricks made a bit of an impact for Dallas, but kind of across the board. Odigizua with the sack as well. So, again, as much as the Cowboys aren't very good, they improved to 5-7, and they get their first win at home. They were the only team besides the Giants that had not yet won at home. They do it here. Now the thing is, the Giants are 0-6 compared to Dallas's 1-5. So um, we'll see if the Giants do. They have 3 more chances within the last 5 games to get a home win. Uh, and I actually think that they might. It won't be against the Ravens, but could it come versus the Saints or the Colts? Crazier things have happened. But I think I've pretty much, you know, discussed everything that needs to be said leading into the game. Let's talk about the game itself and go through these. And it's tough. Look, going through these games is not easy. And we've been here for far too long. These Giant seasons that are just totally over and have no chance. So the first drive comes away with a Cowboy field goal. Dallas moving the ball pretty well. There was a bad defensive offside on Kayvon Thibodeau. It seems like Thibodeau picks the worst times for these penalties. He's got to be better than that. Because again, it's a lot of, it feels like it's penalties at just the most inopportune times. Like, I don't necessarily view him as someone that's a big penalty taker, but it just seems like they're just killers. And so this was one that gave Dallas an automatic, well, not an automatic first down. It was only a 3rd and 5. So the 5-yard penalty results in a first down. It gets into Giant territory. There's a pretty big play from Cooper Rush to CeeDee Lamb, one of the 2 catches that Lamb made. Let's see. Kevontae Turpin, who's really very impressive, got a lot of speed. And we've seen him more on special teams, but I guess now they're working him in on the offense. A 16-yard catch for him. Ultimately, it leads to a situation, 3rd and 4 at the 5, and Rush goes incomplete to Brandon Cooks with Cordell Flott on him. I thought Flott had a pretty good game, made some plays, but has actually kind of been under the radar, not so bad of late. But anyway, it's a Brandon Aubrey 23-yard field goal. So they settle for that field goal. It makes it 3-0 Dallas at that point. Then the Giants on their first drive get a touchdown. 13 plays, 70 yards. And it's the first time that the Giants have had a lead since the Seattle game in week 5. Singletary is the one that starts out. That should be noted. And actually, Drew Lock is stopped on a QB sneak, 3rd and 1 at midfield. Giants go for it on 4th and 1, and they get it. A Tyrone Tracy Jr. 6-yard run gets it done. You get a Singletary first down on a 3rd and 1, just a 2-yard run for him. And the big play, and the big play, 3rd and 6 at the Dallas 29, they blitz Drew Lock. He is able to step up and scramble for a 28-yard run to the 1. Originally rolled a touchdown. I thought that the call was going to stand, but they reverse it, and it's at the 1, and Tyrone Tracy punches it in for a 1-yard touchdown, gives the Giants a 7-3 lead. But Dallas is able to put up points. It's another settle on their part, but they are able to get points on the board. The bad play for the Giants is a 2nd and 21, and Rico Dowdle runs for 22 yards. You can't have that. You cannot have a 2nd and 21 where the running back runs for 22 yards on that play. The next play is a 13-yard run, and we go to the second quarter. And in the second quarter, Schoonmaker, who is in for Jake Ferguson, the tight end for Dallas, gets a 10-yard catch for a first down. And then things stall out a bit, and Brandon Aubrey hits a 33-yard field goal. So 7-6 at that point in favor of the Giants. And here's the big play. Giants starting out with decent field position, a nice return by Eric Gray. He had actually fumbled it, and we know Eric Gray has fumble issues, and it was recovered by Matthew Adams. And on this play, as I mentioned before, Singletary kind of gets blown up a little bit by Overshown. And Locke tries to throw a screen pass to Singletary. Now, if it got to him, could have been a pretty big play. It doesn't, though. Overshown tips the ball. It goes in the air. He catches his own tip and runs it for a 23-yard pick six. So, again, for me, like, if there's one play that comes to mind in this game, it's that one. That was the big one. And so, Drew Lock, you cannot do that. And I feel like that is part of his game. That's how he's been in his career. And so that makes it 13-7. Giants get the ball. There's a Malik Neighbors 18-yard catch. But then, the Giants, they don't do much after that. There's a sack that Drew Lock takes that totally takes them out of any chance of maybe going for it or whatever. So Jamie Gillen punts it away. Dallas gets the ball. And this was one where a missed opportunity for the Cowboys on 3rd and 1. at their own 44, an easy completion to CeeDee Lamb, and CeeDee Lamb just drops. I'm not sure what happened there. I'm not sure if he took his eye off the ball, but drops it, and then they go for it. And the Cowboys go for a fullback dive, quick handoff to the fullback, and he's stuffed for no gain. I believe DJ Davidson was actually the one that may have gotten in there. Maybe Tyler Nubin as well. But actually a pretty good stand by the Giants. And again, Dallas, fucked up as well. So the Giants have decent field position, but they don't take advantage of it at all. And so they punt it away to the Cowboys. A really good punt by Jamie Gillen down at the 1. And the Cowboys go 3 and out. So this is all happening in the second quarter. This is where the game's kind of slowing down a bit. I felt the first quarter had a good flow to it. Second quarter was pretty ugly. And the Cowboys try to take a couple of one deep shot to Jonathan Mingo, nicely covered by Cordell Flott. And so the Cowboys punted away deep in their own territory. And then Smith Marset with a nice return, a 22-yard return to the Cowboy 29. So the Giants are set up, but they're unable to really fully take advantage of that great field position. A false start by Daniel Bellinger certainly didn't help matters. There was an incomplete pass to Malik Neighbors. He should have caught it. Even if he does, they're short of the first down and probably would have settled for 3 anyway. But Graham Gano hits a 46-yard field goal to make it a 13-10 game at this point. And then Dallas gets the ball back. And there's an offensive pass. And there's penalties on Dallas, an offensive pass interference penalty that puts him in a tough spot. The drive basically goes nowhere, and the Giants get the ball back. Again, it's just an exchanging of punts, both sides, where you're thinking, all right, either team has an opportunity, Dallas to extend the lead, Giants to maybe tie it up or something, and the Giants get the ball back. They go 3 and out. There would be a false start by Evan Neal in that mix. And an incomplete pass, a couple of opportunities. Darius Slayton was kind of a big target on this particular drive, but they were unable to connect. Dallas gets the ball back at their own 34, and Kayvon Thibodeau is called for roughing the passer. So Dallas actually has the ball at about midfield, but they go three straight incomplete passes, and the last one being the one where Kayvon Thibodeau actually puts good pressure on Cooper Rush, and it's just a deep incomplete. And so Dallas punts it away. Giants get it back. There was a first down to Tyrone Tracy. They did move the ball a little bit. Again, kind of stops and starts for this drive for the Giants. Ultimately, though, a sack really puts it out of reach, and we go to the second half with Dallas up 13-10. And here is your other really big play. 3rd and 2 at the Giant 38. Coming out of halftime, Drew Lock is trying to step up and run for a first down. What ends up happening, though, is he is sacked by Eric Kendricks, fumbles, and recovered by who else? Overshown. So Overshown gets the pick 6 and a fumble recovery. And so now Dallas has the ball with good field position. Again, Lock, you cannot do that. This bad Giant team can't afford costly turnovers like that. A really big 3rd down conversion on a play from Cooper Rush to Kavontae Turpin for 30 yards. Then a really big play, a real big swing play. 2nd and goal at the 6 for the Cowboys. And Cooper Rush scrambles for 4 yards. Bobby Okereke punches it out. Micah McFadden recovers in the end zone. So originally it's ruled a touchback, Giant ball. However, upon review, it was determined that Cooper Rush's knee was down. It was close. It was really close, but they said his knee was down. And so that, keeps it with Dallas. And at 3rd and goal to 2, Cooper Rush to Brandon Cooks for a 2-yard touchdown on a crossing route past Adoree Jackson. So Brandon Cooks, we'll talk about again, didn't do a crazy amount, but for what he did do was pretty important. This was he had been out for a while. Brandon Cooks was out since about that first time that the Cowboys played the Giants. So been quite some time. And so the Cowboys with a touchdown take a 20-10 lead. Then the Giants get the ball back. They are unable to do much with it at all. They go 3 and out. Drew Lock is sacked by Micah Parsons as well on that 3rd down. Cowboys get the ball back and they score. So this was a really good stretch for Dallas. This opening half stretch was really what put this out of reach for the Giants. Jalen Tolbert with the big 36-yard catch to put it into Giant territory. And Cooper rushed to Jonathan Mingo on a play where this is the play where Nunez Roches gets hurt, I guess. So he got hurt a little bit later than I thought, midway through the third quarter. There's a penalty on Adoree Jackson for defensive pass interference to extend the drive, where ultimately Rico Dowdle is able to score a touchdown. 4-yard run for Dowdle makes it 27-10 for the Cowboys. Giants get the ball. And this is where Theo Johnson gets a little more involved. 15-yard catch for Theo Johnson. There would even be a nice Drew Lock 21-yard scramble to get it into Dallas territory. We go to the fourth quarter, and Drew Lock is sacked to start the fourth quarter, which keeps the drive alive from a point standpoint, but it doesn't put them in a good position to get a touchdown. But they are able to get a 47-yard Graham Gano field goal to cut it to a 2-score game, 27-13. And the Giants defense, again, you have to consider the situation of the game, but the Giants defense did a better job in the fourth quarter. It was a very conservative approach by Dallas, just really running the ball at Rico Dowdle a lot. They do punt it away at about midfield. Giants get the ball at this point down by 14. And you looked like you had a big 29-yard pass completion from Locke to Neighbors. However, holding on Chris Manhertz puts it back, and they're unable to really recover from that. And again, it's a Drew Lock sack. Odigizua on this one on third down that puts it at reach. That's a problem. Again, the 6 sacks of Locke, and for sack purposes, DeVito's more of the issue there, right? DeVito takes a lot of sacks. Locke is usually, it seems to be better at getting rid of it. He really didn't have any time in these cases. Like, I can't remember many times where it's like, get rid of it. They were right on him immediately. So the Giants punted away, but they are able, after a Dowdle 17-yard run, they're able to calm it down. Giants called a timeout on this drive defensively, and the Cowboys punted again. So now 27-13 still, less than 5 minutes to go. The Giants are able to drive 8 plays, 80 yards. And, getting a little bit of everyone involved. Theo Johnson, there was a defensive pass interference that actually Jalen Hyatt drew. Theo Johnson with another catch for a first down. Tyrone Tracy Jr., Theo Johnson with a 13-yard reception. Malik Neighbors, 16 yards. So they're moving the ball, and it ends in a Drew Lock touchdown. This time he gets the touchdown, an 8-yard scramble to make it 27-20. I wasn't sure. I thought maybe they were going to go for 2. They didn't. They kicked the extra point, makes it 27-20. And then this is where the road ends, but it got a little interesting. Now, a defensive offside by Elijah Chapman did not help at all. So it's 1st and 5. No gain on a pass. Giants call their second timeout. Then a 3-yard run by Dowdle, and it's the 2-minute warning. Giants have 1 timeout left. So if the Giants can somehow make a stop here, technically speaking, they at worst, would have no timeouts left, maybe a minute and 45 seconds left, down by 7. Now, do I think the Giants would have gotten in touch in that situation? Probably not. But they would have had enough time to make it interesting. But the Cowboys are able to make the play. Cooper rushed to Brandon Cooks, and it was Adoree Jackson, I believe Tyler Newman, that were in the area. A really nice catch by Cooks. Not a terrible throw by Rush, but I give more credit to Cooks, and that seals it. It's a 3-yard catch that gives him the first down, and then it's victory formation for Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys. So the Giants don't get the ball back there, and Dallas wins by a score of 27-20. So the Giants, a fairly valiant effort. And I feel like Giants in recent years, just seem to give you better football on the road. It's MetLife Stadium specifically, where it's just brutal, absolutely terrible. But this is also nothing to write home about. This is nothing to be proud about. All it is an improvement from what was the disaster of last game against the Bucs. Will it be Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito next week? I don't know. That I am very unsure on that. I leave this game, and look, obviously DeVito was the starter, and in theory, if he's healthy, they'd go back to him. Drew Lock was okay in this game. I think that Drew Lock gives, if you want to lose games, I actually think DeVito's the one that you want. If you want to win games, I think that Lock probably gives you the better opportunity to win, despite the fact that he really made some pretty brutal turnovers. So now the next opponent will be the New Orleans Saints. And that will be a home game. New Orleans at this point trying to make a last-ditch effort to make things interesting in that. And whether they can actually do that will depend on their matchup with the Rams this weekend. If they can win that game in what is a pretty weird NFC South, the Saints may feel as if, hey, why not? And really, the truth is they're not that bad of a team. They're not good. I would be shocked if they made the playoffs, but I believe they're on a 2-game winning streak at this point. Getting a little bit healthier in some ways. So I think New Orleans is going to be pretty tough for the Giants. It's winnable, but based on the way these teams are playing and based on, again, if Dexter Lawrence is hurt, forget about it. I mean, the New Orleans will run all over the Giants. So that's a pretty key thing as well. So a Thanksgiving loss to the rival Dallas Cowboys, not a surprise in any way, shape, or form. Third different quarterback at this point. In the last 3 games, Jones, DeVito, Locke. We'll see what they do next week with an extended break. And I think most Giants fans can agree that's not a bad thing. I don't think Giant fans exactly are looking forward to these games and just hoping that the season ends. Only 5 games to go, 7-game losing streak, 2-10, and a loss on Thanksgiving to the Dallas Cowboys. Final score, 27-20.